All right, everyone. Thank you so much for coming this afternoon. My name is Henry Guo. I am product marketing for the Cloud Management Business Unit. I cover vRealize Operations, Blue Medora, Log Insight. Today, of course, we're here for get to more in depth into breaking logjam. How do I use Log Insight? What is it currently? What entitlements do you have? What is kind of a use cases? And then finally, Ryan will join me doing more of a technical deep dive, and then we'll talk a little more about that. We want this to be more interactive, so as we go through this, if there are questions, feel free to raise your hand, or we can walk through this. We want to make sure we have your questions answered and make this as informative as possible. Ryan, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, Ryan Cartwright. I'm a VMware staff systems engineer. I've been at VMware 3.5 years in a few different roles. Spent the first part of my career as a customer, so I was like you, in your shoes, attending VMworld, gathering information, joined the PSO organization within VMware, was a specialist for the vRealize Operations and Log Insight team, covering the East Coast, and now I'm a core SC based out of Maryland, covering enterprise. So ask questions along the way. I've seen a lot of this in the field, and hopefully we walk away with a successful session.
All right. So with that, we'll unfortunately start off with a quick disclaimer. It's under development, so there's no commitments. It's technical feasibility. We're not actually going to cover a lot of the roadmap things. We can talk through them, but for this one, we're more on what's currently available. And a little another plug is we recently released the vRealize Operations Specialist. So folks for VMware specialists, we have one specifically dedicated to vRealize Operations for folks who have dealt with this tool a lot. Please go to this web link and take this test, and then you will also get a badge and a hat along with it. So this is something we're launching right now, something very exciting. We hope everyone can take the time and actually go and get the badge as well. With that, we're going to talk with Log Insight overall overview, just kind of the overall what is Log Insight for those, maybe folks already know this, but just kind of walk through that. We'll do a technical demo. We're probably not going to do a live one, but at least we'll talk a little bit about what's currently available with hands-on labs. How do we go through that? And if you guys want to, we can showcase some of this and finish up with some Q&A. So, but as like Ryan has said, feel free to ask questions as we go forward.
Yeah, we got some QR codes here for $10 Amazon gift cards for questions to ask, so we want to keep this as interactive as possible.
So afterwards, please come up. We'll give a business card. If you go on the link, you'll get a $10 Amazon gift card. Do a very short 5-minute survey question regarding vRealize Operations and Log Insight. So for folks, I will cover a lot of the kind of the business pricing, packaging aspects of it. So for Log Insight, for many folks who are new, know it's a very great tool. It's very powerful. It's easy to install, very capable. And we've promoting this as a kind of the wide usage of the log management system of VMware. So you get it included in NXX. So for every NXX, for folks who bought NXX, you get free Log Insight. For every CPU log NXX, you get one CPU Log Insight. For every multiple concurrent, you get another one corresponding Log Insight. And this has been out for about 1.5 years. Hopefully most folks have known about this. Everyone who has vCenter also has 25 OSIs of Log Insight. So this is a little bit of a scope down. You don't have event forwarding, you don't have some of the other ones, but you do get Log Insight. So for vCenter specifically, you could start testing out, learn Log Insight. So we want this to be a tool for folks who can start playing around with it. And if you like Log Insight, very easily just tap and then buy more licenses and you're ready to go with more.
Quick show of hands. How many people have used Log Insight? Awesome.
Wow, great.
How many people have it in production? Awesome. And people that haven't, why not?
They're here to learn. I think so, right? So as very many folks know, Log Insight is very extensible. It's free content packs. We keep expanding it. Lately, we just launched one that's in sync with vSAN. So for every vSAN, then you'll have a management pack with VROps and Log Insight corresponding. So it's very native to a lot of our VMware products, the whole integration. As moving forward, Log Insight 4.5 were recently launched. Yes, question?
Are all the content packs free?
Yes.
So the question was, are all the content packs free? Yes. So once you have Log Insight, you get access to the content pack. So with Log Insight for vCenter, you get access to all VMware branded content packs. And then when you have the full version, you get access to the ecosystem. I think it's about 50 or 60 plus content packs.
60 now, yeah. So that's a great question. Yes, it is. But there are some entitlements, like Ryan said, for Log Insight for vCenter is entitled to VMware. For NSX, you're also only entitled to the content packs for NSX and the VMware vCenter. Pardon?
Standalone connected, you can't download it.
Yes, correct.
Say that again.
So we operate both plans.
Yep.
And even though we have the licensure, you can't bring in any of the packs because they say we import.
Talk to us offline, and we can help
We
you
can
out.
figure that maybe out. So with the new 6.5 launch back in June, there's a whole integration more and more with VROps. So now you have open context, you can see a lot of things. You see an event in VROps, you can double click, open one and log inside and actually chase through that last mile. So that's something that's very much in the roadmaps as you get tighter integration between these two tools. The whole idea of, hopefully everyone knows about this log inside, it's very cost effective. It's different from a lot of the other vendors out there. You have a simple kind of, you buy per CPU, you buy per OSI, you know how many log streams you need and you purchase that way. And during tests, we've tested this, it is faster than Splunk in a pure log ingestion and analysis format. So most folks probably been inundated with this as well, but I just want to at least just quickly talk through this. So for many folks, this is the vision of VMware. The whole idea is we've started off with the whole software data center, and then now we're moving very, very much into the whole idea of cross-hybrid cloud. So the key point call out here for Log Insight vRealize is the key tool that really bridges all this. So vRealize operations, it's also a little form we're going to be able to look into off-prem, on-prem, and then Log Insight as well to look at logs from vCenter, for any vCenter either hosted on AWS or on-site, and actually start analyzing logs for that. And this whole idea is, what is the vRealize suite? So this is more of vRealize suite. The whole idea of 360, the capacity, the troubleshooting, the 360 structure on structure, looking at that. We have performance availability, of course, VROps, costing planning with vRealize Business, topography analysis with some of the VROps, also with the Verni or Network Insight, workload balancing. Storage management for vRealize operations is now native for the 6.6. So for anybody who has vRealize Operations Advanced 6.6, you can now see native vSANs treated like vCenter. So you can start looking through cross clusters, stretch clusters, looking through the whole stack. But for today's focus, the key piece of all this that ties together, in my mind, is the log analytics piece. The really change between the differentiator between what our product solution is for vRealize and many of the others is the whole integration of the log analytics piece, where you can really see that deep log analysis in a very quick, easy format. Very similar. This is kind of in a different view what our product is enabled of. vRealize Business, vOperations, and vCloud, of course, constitutes the vRealize suite. And across that, as many folks know, we recently acquired a company called Wavefront, who does more SaaS-based data point analysis. So that's still being a topic as we discover this, but at least want to make sure everyone knows this. And there's a gentleman the question about content packs. So content packs are free. Management packs for vRealize operations, some of them are free, but a lot of them are not. The ones through Blue Medora would actually have a cost associated with it, but they're very powerful and they're very easy to purchase and use. So jumping right in, what is Log Insight, right? What is kind of it does? It takes one of the software-defined data center, the compute, the vCenter, the network storage, anything of VMware, and also with the content packs, you can start going more to the physical infrastructure, the switches, routers, compute. So you can actually ingest physical logs, the SCDC logs, which were native built, and then actually apps. Apps and OSs, you can just pipe it in, type in the IP address, and start piping data in to Log Insight to actually view the logs for the OS and applications. And key call out also one is you can go up to 200 gigabytes, or about 2 billion logs events per day. We're looking in the future to expand this to be even higher ingestion, but for the time being, this is roughly what the capacity is, so it would cover most environments.
Has anyone run into capacity limits or issues with Log Insight?
Yeah.
Yep. What's that?
He's a vCenter cap. The gentleman asked if there's a vCenter cap to connect to Log Insight.
So from the UI, I believe it's 10. If you need to add additional ones, you can do that from a command line. But from an ingestion rate, we have a customer-oriented research and development program. So if you go above and beyond the scalable instances, let us know. We can kind of put you into that program. And there's some requirements from a customer end to give some feedback. But we have some customers that are going, I think internally we run about a 50 node cluster. I think the supported is about, might be 12. So if you need to go above that 12 node limit, let us know and we can get you involved in that program.
Yeah, we're looking at expanding that 12 node cluster, but that's still kind of TBD. But if you want to talk offline after this, we're happy to connect. Perfect. All right, so Log Insight, very much of another quick one. You do need Log Insight agents for many folks who have used, for pretty much everyone who has used it. So you would need that. You put it into this, and then you use these agents to ingest this, and actually then able to query this and use Log Insight. So that's roughly a pictorial representation how Log Insight is set up. The idea of this, and I think the key differentiator, what I keep mentioning, is this whole idea of VRes operations and Log Insight. And that's one of the key things we want to make sure everyone understands is the whole idea of structured unstructured data. Operations, you take the data from vCenter, EXI's host, it's very structured. You know what you're getting. Log Insight, it just logs. It's any machine-generated data. So you take these two tools and really combine them together, which we're doing more with 6.6 launch of VROps and 4.5 Log Insight, the whole connection there. Really gives you that kind of open context, the whole 360 troubleshooting ideology. This is the dashboard for many folks, 4.5, sorry, this is VROps 6.6 with the instance of 4.5 in Log Insight. For now, with VRes Operations 6.6, we have also shifted over to HTML5, very similar to Log Insight. So now we did a whole UI in the last 2 releases for both products. Now if you go into, for VROps users and Log Insight, you can definitely see a lot more of better looking and slick usage.
Yeah, so just a quick plug here is you've probably seen some of our products within the VRes Cloud Management Suite moving towards identity management or SSO. So the feedback that we got from customers is, I was in Operations Manager, and then I had to go into Log Insight and re-enter my credentials. So you'll start to see our products start to leverage identity management or SSO. That way they can seamlessly transition between the products. Because with Active Directory, we don't have control over that because it's a Microsoft-owned product. So for simple AD forests, it works pretty well. But when you get into some complex multi-forest, multi-domains, the sync doesn't work as well. So we ran into a bunch of issues. So that's why we're starting to see identity management, SSO be leveraged.
Correct. Thanks, Ryan. And also one kind of quick call out here for, so from VRes Operations, you can open Log Insight from the homepage directly, so you have actually a link for that. You can troubleshoot logs, dashboards, so once you see an issue, general overview dashboard, you click on through that. You could do object clicks log tab, so when you see an object that comes up in VROps, click through that. So these are the kind of the four ways you can really, and even VROps alerts now allow you to double click and troubleshoot into the log and open instant Log Insight to see what that actual event associated with that log is. So we're trying to make this as seamless as possible for folks. So one, kind of that whole going to more unified view, one single pane of glass, using VROps as a tool, as the kind of window to unlock all this. We'll kind of walk through this fairly quickly. We cover most of it. Log Insight, as we mentioned, is enterprise ready. It's 200 gigabytes, about 12 node clusters. It's included for vCenter. It's included for, in 25 OSIs, included for NXX, and it's now more and more integrated with VROps. So for folks who have used Log Insight, the power of the predictive analytics, when you actually see a log, you open up this view of Log Insight. You can start seeing different views, double-clicking, finding the events, associated events, and then actually just sort on those ones so you know which ones are actually the relevant ones. So it saves a lot more time. So folks who have played around with it, I'm sure you're very familiar with this. This is expanding world of our content packs. Recently we updated the vSAN ones. There's other ones, I think VIDM and others that's kind of coming out with content packs.
Yeah, so earlier this week, as part of VMware, I worked with our R&D team for identity management, and we just released the identity management content pack. So you heard during the general session a lot about Workspace ONE. So the identity management content pack is out there. It's the 1.0 release of it. Download it. provide feedback. We want to kind of hear from you as the customers, what works, what doesn't work. And from the content packs, if there's not a content pack included, reach out to your local SE. One of my customers was leveraging Infinidat storage. They were running into some issues. There wasn't a content pack for that. They gave me a dump of their logs, and we reached out to the Infinidat PM team, and within about a month, we had a content pack out on the marketplace. So it's development work, but it's not programming. You don't have to know how to write code. I don't really have a coding background, but it's just really metadata. You look through the logs, create some regex expressions, extracted fields, alerts, and it's really not that difficult to create a content pack to get it up into the marketplace. You can create your own kind of custom content packs if you have some homegrown applications within your environment. So are there any kind of content packs out there that aren't on the marketplace that you'd like to see?
I believe there is.
Yep,
Yeah, I think
is.
F5,
Yep.
there is one F5. So most of the major ones are out there, but the other ones we're happy to work with you guys. They're, like Brian said, relatively easy to kind of develop that. Yeah.
Is there a way to create a content pack that takes all the security subset content packs from every one of these 50, puts it in a unified security dashboard?
So we've been asked that question a lot about security. So the question was, can we take all the security-related content packs or data and put them into a security-specific content pack? I guess the question is, how do you define security?
Most of them have security.
Yeah. So there's not a way to automatically do that, but if there's a security one, you can clone those specific dashboards, and then you can put them into your own personalized content pack, and then create one customized for that.
Okay. This is kind of already talked to that, and we'll go a little more in depth in the technical overview. So, what Log Insight is, really it takes it's the whole Rosetta Stone. It takes very messy machine data into ways that's queryable, right? It translates into ways that you can understand, query with Log Insight, and really quickly parse and find the kind of needle in the haystack. We plugged through this already. So, I'll kind of wrap up very quickly. What do we typically see for customers when using Log Insight? It's really used to troubleshoot root cause. I mean, that's the main use case. We don't do full SIM, Security Information Event Manager. That's not the kind of the major ways. You could do some of that with Log Insight, but we don't have a lot of the security built in like Splunk, but we are also in the same environment. A lot of times we see that. So you can kind of follow the trail from view realized operations, or just use it independently and also find that last step. More structured to unstructured data. The whole idea is you can query logs yourself. You don't really need a log management. It's just really, really hassle. This Log Insight really does that seamlessly and very easily. And then the idea of machine language, you have a lot of data. You want to put some structure and actually manage that into a way to easily manageable format. So those are three major use cases we typically see in Log Insight. And does anybody else kind of use Log Insight for other purposes that you want to share, or do you guys? No? All right. Thank you. With the yes, gentleman back there. Sorry?
Is there an average for data retention period for your customers?
Yeah, so typically we see customers using this for root cause analysis and not necessarily data storage or archival purposes. So typically from a root cause analysis perspective, 30 days is about average. We have some customers keeping a little bit more data, keeping less. It really depends on the ingestion rate. If anyone doesn't know, Steve Flanders created a sizing calculator. It was maintained just on his blog. It's publicly available now, so that can help determine how you need to properly size your nodes, how many nodes you need, how much data within there from your data store perspective to figure out what the retention is. And so it's recommended to configure the administrative alerts within Log Insight, and it'll give you alerts on when you're planning to run out of disk space. That way you're not surprised by that fact.
Yes.
Are there any plans to integrate with Splunk at some point? So like forwarding specific event types to Splunk?
Yep. Yeah, so the question was, is there any plans to integrate with Splunk? So the answer is yes, it already exists. There's not, I wouldn't call it native integration, but we have event forwarding. So with the free vCenter version, or vCenter for Log Insight, event forwarding is not available.
Yep.
For the full version, event forwarding is available. So you can forward to multiple sources. So in a distributed environment, you might have Log Insight instances at your branch offices or remote data centers. You can distribute those back to a primary data center. Or we see a lot of use cases where customers have Splunk, because the security teams brought it in, but they don't want the VI admins to have access to it because as soon as you start ingesting logs, it increases the Splunk cost. So we've seen a lot of customers run Log Insight and Splunk kind of side by side and alleviate a lot of that log data from Splunk and kind of keep it from a VI admin root cause analysis perspective.
Any app development plan for Splunk?
I think that's pretty much the realm we're moving in. I mean, we don't.
Let's I guess
yeah.
talk offline to figure out
Yeah.
what exactly you were looking for.
Yeah. I mean, there's not probably going to be us exactly into Splunk, but you know, there's ways we can have workarounds of that. Yeah, gentleman over back there.
Which log is that differently from Splunk where it doesn't have to do that transformation of data? So when we were porting the ops logs to Splunk,
Yes.
it was a disaster. It took the numbers and wasn't going to do it in a meaningful way. Is that what you mean by the transformation of data that Log Insight does not have to do? And if so, what is Log Insight doing?
Yep. So the question was, the gentleman is using Splunk, was using Splunk and VRise operations. So you're forwarding a lot of the VRise operations logs into Splunk, and there was a lot of issues. So you're asking, what does Log Insight do differently that could be able to quickly and easily translate this?
Yep. So typically, most customers would use Splunk and just collect syslog data. So it's just raw data, depending on how the manufacturer or the developer created that log. So the power of Log Insight is really in the agents. So there's a Windows agent and a Linux agent, and within there's a number of different parsers that has predefined sets. So we'll use vCenter as an example. So we know where all the logs are. So we know where all the different directories are, whether it's using a CSV parser or just a native parser to ingest that data. And with those parsers, you can start to add specific tags or add additional data or transform data that might not be in just a native syslog format. So that's kind of really where the power is within that agent. That agent, if you kind of look at from a savings perspective, you're going to save on bandwidth as well as disk space because there's some compression value within using the specific agents over syslog.
Yes.
So it's either or. So if you're not going to put an agent on a switch or a storage array, and we'll just collect that data via syslog. But if you have a Windows machine or a Linux appliance, you can install that agent if you want to get some additional power and value out of it. If you can just collect syslog data, you're more than welcome to as well.
Yes. So the question was, is there anything in the roadmap to integrate with the AirWatch agent?
Yeah, I haven't heard of anything, but we can take that offline and follow up.
Yeah, I mean, if there's a lot of demand, we can probably look into that, but yeah, exactly.
By show of hands, is that something that more customers would want?
Yeah?
Native
Is there a
AirWatch
lot?
integration to Log Insight with the AirWatch agent?
Okay, that's something under consideration.
Just in the back, and then we'll come to
The
you.
gentleman with the hat, yeah, I think. Yeah.
It is not. So,
EP ops is
so he asked, is it the same agent as the endpoint operation? So is everyone familiar with endpoint operations? Is everyone familiar with Hyperic? So Hyperic was a solution that we've kind of rolled into vRealize Ops as of 6.1,
Yeah.
6.2 timeframe. So endpoint operations gives you operating system, application, and process level information into vRealize operations. So this is a different agent than that. You'll start to kind of see some items as a roadmap item that might be more of a cloud management type of agent that goes across multiple platforms. Still in the works, but we're hearing a lot of that feedback because, agent versus agentless is always a religious battle.
Is there any, do you have a question up front, or you answer?
Do you know if there are any plans on the roadmap to really deprecate like data authentication to
So the question was, is there anything roadmap to deprecate Active Directory and move straight only to VIDM? For the time being, no, but I think as we move forward and more adopt VIDM, there's possibly, but we wanted to keep these two services running because I know a lot of folks are still wanting to use Active Directory. So
Yeah, to kind of add on to that point, maybe about a month or two ago when Log Insight 4.5 was released, there was some notes in the release notes that said AD authentication is no longer supported.
Yeah.
We quickly realized that from the field and brought that back to the PM team and the in charge of documentation, and we got that corrected. So for the time being, AD is still supported. There probably is plans to kind of move away from that as more, as SSO and identity management comes more into play. But as always, there's always a one-off case-by-case basis.
Yeah. So 4.5, as many more folks, we launched in June. We included if you download Login Site, you also get the VIDM, so it's free, so you can use a single. So I know there's some cost, people had questions about that, so there's no cost associated with that. So you get VIDM, you just download the virtual application, and you can start using that. Mm-hmm.
I think under the covers, it's still the same appliance.
I think it should work.
But from a licensing perspective, your IDM is going to be included. Look for some things to where a lot of customers, setting up VIDM and HA has some challenges, we'll call it that. So we're trying to do some things internally to allow you to leverage identity management in the cloud natively in SaaS. So you just hit a checkbox and it just kind of works. You don't have to set up VIDM and set up a SQL cluster and just to kind of streamline a lot of that.
Yep, the gentleman in the back. Yes. Yes, it does. So there's 25 you get if you buy a full license. That 25 gets converted to full login licenses. So you get, but you can only do one per vCenter. So you can't do. If you have 5 vCenters, you can't just put all of them into. So only one vCenter can use those licenses. If you go buy more, you can only use at that log insight for that vCenter.
So to kind of clarify that question, so the customer asks, you get the 25 licenses per vCenter. Let's say you have 10 vCenters. So you'd have, in that case, you'd have to have 10 separate instances of Log Insight, which is not very scalable. When you purchase the full version of Log Insight, you can cluster those together and aggregate all those vCenters together. But you only get one free 25 pack towards that. And if, let's say you bought another 25 pack, you would have 50 available licenses. If you bought a 100 pack, you'd have 125 available licenses, unless you maintain separate vCenter Log Insight clusters for global disbursement for some reason. We can dig into that further and kind of go up different scenarios, but you get to at least keep the initial 25 plus 25 additional ones.
Yep. If you call it out there, it becomes full, the original 25. Yes, I think the gentleman over there had a question. Real life, sorry, I can hear that one, last part.
Yep.
Real life examples?
Yeah, I can share a few. So one of my customers had Cisco UCS blades. So they were 10 U's, they were stacking them up, so they'd have 40 U rack. They were noticing some weird issues of overheating, VMs that weren't running properly. So they started collecting the logs from the Cisco UCS chassis. We have a UCS content pack. They noticing that the heat on the top rack and the top blades was a lot higher and causing performance issues, and it was shutting down services within those specific blades. So they actually redesigned their data center, and instead of stacking them 40 U high, they were only stacking them 30 U high. And then they put in a plan to talk to basically the operations folks that run the data center to talk to HVAC and redo their kind of hot and cold aisles. So that was one instance. Another is with just storage latency. So vRealize Ops collects data directly from the vCenter Performance API, and it's essentially on a 5-minute data point. So we're taking those 20-second real-time performance monitoring tab, we're averaging those out to create one 5-minute data point. If you think about latency, I could have 100 millisecond latency at one point in time, and then it could be 0 for the rest. And that averages out and it might be 5 or 6 or whatever the number may be, which kind of goes under that threshold or value. With Log Insight, we're collecting live streams of data. So we can see actually, you can create alerts on if latency goes up over a certain period at one point in an instance, or if you see it over multiple periods of time. So there's a lot of kind of common scenarios that ops and log insight kind of overlap, but that's specifically one where it's probably better to use the log data because it's more of a real-time stream as opposed to a near real-time, which is from an ops perspective. Is that helpful? Yeah. Yep.
Yes, the one red shirt, I guess, then we'll go to the other. Go ahead.
So the question was, correct me if I'm wrong, the log insight and vCenter ops integration, is it using data from so you can send data from log insight to operations to create specific logs and trigger logs as notifications. There's not data from ops coming into log insight. No, completely independent.
It's independent.
Completely independent.
Yes. Yeah.
So let's go through some more of the technical, and we'll address that in a few moments. Good question.
So when are you guys moving to Photon OS to get rid of
It's coming out. I mean, it's been delayed a little bit, but I think we're trying to next 2 releases definitely Photon OS. I think that's on the roadmap, but we're not committed exactly yet.
When are you guys going to release a patch?
Take that offline.
Yeah.
All right, we'll go through some more technical detail. We'll keep the questions kind of flowing. What we got?
Well, maybe one last one before we jump in. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
The threat ended having to take it offline and stuff patch did it take it 4 weeks.
We'll escalate with the team.
Yeah, please come talk to us after this. We'll definitely make sure.
So as we've been talking about, we're collecting data. We can collect log data from physical, virtual, on-prem, off-prem, cloud, anything that writes log data. A colleague of mine did a session last year that integrated vRealize CodeStream, vRealize automation, and was leveraging collecting that log data and pumping it into Log Insight to address specific code changes from a DevOps perspective. So from a DevOps, the logs are only as good as they write the logs to be. So we constantly have questions. We have something internally within VMware. We call it Log Insight on Log Insight, where all of our DevOps folks from all the different BUs, they're ingesting all the logs into one major Log Insight application. So if you think from a DevOps perspective, there's a lot of underlying code that's running across all of our applications. And if someone makes one code change, they could start to see a performance impact that may be negatively impacting the application, or they may have introduced a new bug. They can take that and see if that bug is across multiple platforms or if it's only addressed in a net new version. So there's another use case from a DevOps perspective where Log Insight could come into play. So here's just a quick UI overview. So there's really, from a deployment standpoint, Log Insight is probably one of the easiest products that VMware owns to deploy. It's a virtual appliance-based deployment, and you can set it up probably in a matter of, once you have the appliance downloaded, 10 to 15 minutes to get it installed, up and running, and collecting some data from vCenter. We'll go through the instructions to kind of hook it up into vCenter, and then as you deploy specific agents to collect additional data, you'll start gathering more valuable data. So we have the dashboards page, and in the, let's see if this works on the screen. There we go. So in the top left here, we have basically the VMware vSphere content pack that's installed. In that specific dropdown would be all the other content packs that are installed inside of your environment. vSphere is by far the most robust content pack that we have. It's our flagship product. Some of the other ones we start to see is vSAN and NSX that have a lot of content as well. Within here, we have a series of different dashboards. So each dashboard will have a series of other widgets that provide different data, whether it's graphical interfaces or a set of queries that you can run. And we have a bunch of different widgets to display that data however a customer wants to kind of consume it. We have a few different, whether it's a chart, a line graph, a bubble graph. We can display that different. So if you see here, we have a bunch of different, we would click on the vSphere and we could see all the different dashboards. So you can have your My Dashboard, so this could be your personal dashboard from an administrator perspective that you don't want to maybe share to your other colleagues. You're kind of testing something out and maybe it helps solve your job or a problem simple. Or if you have shared dashboards, you can share it out to maybe the VI admin team or to the storage team or the network team. That way they would just see custom content specific to their dashboard. But in this case, we have a bunch of different dashboards. And really behind the scenes, it's just metadata. So we have metadata for the content packs in the form of dashboards, queries, agent groups, which we'll get into in a few minutes, alerts, and extracted fields. So here we can quickly see all the different dashboards that are available within vCenter. A few that I want to kind of point out to look at is this vSphere DRS. How many folks use Turbonomics? Do you use Turbonomics just because it does, you don't trust DRS or don't use DRS or? Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So I would take a look at this vSphere DRS just to see if you are using Turbonomics, how much you're actually moving workloads around to see what kind of performance impact that is actually hitting on that workload. There's a few other ones in here, the SCSI sense codes and SCSI latency errors. Take a look at those and look at those different error messages that are showing up in there. We have a lookup for those sense codes that might point out a firmware or driver issue that might be from an old patch that just needs to get updated from your storage particular vendor. So those are worth kind of just checking out. You can plug it in within a matter of minutes. It'll start collecting all your ESXi logs, and that might point some potential issues that might be storage related and bubble them up right to the service and kind of finding that needle in the haystack. But I would recommend kind of just clicking through here. There's probably, each customer is going to find value in different content packs, and you'll quickly determine that maybe you don't like the entire dashboard layout and you just want to clone the specific vSphere error events. You could clone that specific dashboard and widget into your My Personal Dashboard just to save on time. Yeah. Question? Yeah, so this goes to the gentleman's question about the VMware.log file. I think, let me just jump ahead and then I'll jump back. I think it's the next one. So from a vSphere integration standpoint, put in your host name, username, password, if you want to add any tags, and then this checkbox to collect vCenter server events, tasks, and alarms. If you click this question mark, it actually pulls up a notes page that shows you what it does not collect, and it does not collect natively the VMware.log file. To get that information, you would need to add the agent onto your vCenter server and then start collecting additional log files. So there's an agent group for vSphere, and there's one for vSphere 5X, there's one for 6X, and if you have SSO integrated or not integrated, there's different agent groups and breakdowns. If you kind of look through that agent group file, it'll lay out what logs it's collecting, and the VMware log file will be on there. Now the next question will probably be, can I put the agent on the appliance? Was your question? Can you put the agent on the appliance? There's supported and there's unsupported, and I will say if you want the log data, go ahead and install it and put it on the appliance, and you can collect that data. If you have issues with support down the road that says it's not supported, we won't look at it, just turn off the log file or that agent for that moment, and we'll go through troubleshooting and support. It's a constant battle internally whether it's supported or not, but we're pushing all of our customers to the vCenter appliance, and there's a lot of value in getting those logs into Log Insight, and it's not going to cost any additional to pull that in. Without the agent, the workaround is to go in through and configure syslog and export syslog directly but you don't get a lot of the value of the different tagging and the parsing capabilities. So there is a workaround. If you don't want to put the agent on the appliance, you can just use native syslog. Question? So I haven't looked at the latest vSphere 6.5 agent group. I would say recommend we can look through that agent group to see what directories and what log files are being collected. If there's any logs that aren't being collected, let us know or let your SE know. We can provide that feedback back to product management and get specific logs in there. Yeah, so the question was, once you turn on that agent and start collecting all the different log data from vSphere or any application for that matter, I say results may vary depending on how much activity is going on. If you have a lot of errors and a lot of issues in that log, if you have verbose data, yes, it's going to increase the amount of disk space and data and scale that you'll need. So I'd say test in your sandbox first before you just turn that on and blow it out to production. Yeah, so that's another thing that you can do within the agent groups and with the agent is you can exclude specific directories and either whitelist or blacklist specific log files or events within a specific log file.
Is there a way to delete any log that have come in from the host, per se, and you no longer want those logs, and you weren't able to delete them before, but with the newer version, is there a way to delete all the existing logs from the log inside that host? Whatever, let's say 500 gigs of space, and you no longer use them, but it is still there.
Yeah, so the question was, within the UI, if you say you decommission a host because it had a lot of log files, is there a way to forcefully delete the logs out? I believe that from the UI, the answer from the UI is no, that you can't. You have to just wait for it to kind of time out to fall off the tail. I'll have to double check to see. I'm sure we have a way to manually forcefully delete it. So give me your card offline and I'll let you know. Is everyone familiar with the concept of webhooks within Log Insight?
No, not
No.
Okay.
Wow, no hands. Okay, one hand in the back. So I think it was in version 3.6 maybe?
3.6, yeah.
3.6 we introduced this concept of webhooks. So historically we were able to send alerts via either SMTP or send them outbound to vRealize operations. In version 3.6 we added this concept of a webhook. So with that webhook you can now leverage REST API and send it to outbound notifications. So we have some customers that are leveraging Slack or PagerDuty or ServiceNow to create ticketing. So with the webhooks, Log Insight will export that data in a Log Insight type of format. Now the system of source that's receiving that data probably wants to expect that data in another format value. So one of the guys that is in technical marketing, a guy named John Diaz, has a blog called Storage Gumbo. I think it's storagegumbo.com. And he has written a lot of shims to translate from Log Insight to that source of record. So I recommend checking out his blog. He'll be here this week as well if you want to export some of that data. So one instance you'll see here is VRO, so vRealize Orchestrator. So a lot of customers are starting to automate some specific processes. If they have a log file that's generating messages, they can do a webhook out to VRO that kicks off a specific workflow to, let's say, clean up some log files or disk space within a specific Windows or Linux appliance, or they want to kick off some other event and workflow. So take advantage of this. It's pretty powerful. This is kind of hidden within the product. A lot of customers don't really take full advantage of it by the show of hands. So this is not a complete list of shims. I'll have to go. I'll actually ask John what he has publicly available. He's got them out that you can download, and as new ones come up, if there's ones that aren't on his page or integration, let us know. Is there one specific that you would want to see? Just one. Are there any integrations or outbound shims that you kind of must have or would want in the product? Remedy? Sharewell? Remedy, Sharewell?
Take that into consideration.
Yep. Anything else? The question was, does it do SNMP traps? It does not do SNMP traps through the UI. However, through the command line, I believe it's still possible to do outbound SNMP traps. But double check. I think that's still available in the product. So we're kind of go off topic for a little bit. How many people play fantasy sports? All right, so here's a little tip to help you win your fantasy league. So all that data is captured in probably a CSV file somewhere on ESPN or Yahoo or wherever it may be. So you can take all that data and plug it into just a CSV file. There's a CSV parser that you can use to export that data and ingest it into Log Insight. Once you start ingesting that data, you start to get some historical analysis, and you can start to create some alerts and some anomalies and see what's going on. And you can start to have some tips and tricks into maybe who to start, or look at how has this player performed on a Wednesday when it rains. Like the stats that announcers say in baseball and football games that you're wondering, how do they get that data? So it doesn't help you really in the workplace much, but in your personal life, if you want to start doing that, it's kind of a unique use case. Absolutely.
Yeah. Content pack for fantasy football. Yeah.
So there's
could be on the development.
I can't remember the guy's name, but there actually is a blog specifically showing that with Log Insight in fantasy sports, and I think it was back in the 3.x. So there's probably some features and functionalities to the webhooks that he hasn't done to automatically add and drop players, but definitely a specific use case. Some other ones that we've seen. Another guy was collecting. So it's not specifically related to Log Insight, but it could be. But one guy's son has diabetes, and we don't have a content pack or a management pack to collect that to glucose levels, but he's hooked into the cloud of the REST API and is pulling stats down for his son's glucose levels, heart rate monitoring. He's ingesting them into Log Insight as well, and it actually saved his son's life one time, because then he put an alert once the glucose levels got above a certain level, and he got an alert on his iPhone and his watch to say, let me go check and make sure I give my son a shot, or make sure give him a glucose tablet. So that's another kind of real life situation that if anyone's in healthcare, that might actually provide some business value as well to your patients. So there's some kind of things that are outside of IT, of looking at storage and network and compute. You can kind of get outside of that gap. So some other use cases for specifically around Log Insight.
Okay.
I skipped a few slides here, but we
cover it kind of most of the starting.
All these slides will be publicly made available. Just to add to the point about the 360-degree log integration with vRealize Ops. So there's two management packs for vRealize Operations that are integrated more robustly within Log Insight. Those are the vSphere management pack and the NSX management pack. With that integration, there's a lot of alerts that are overlapped, and you don't want to have alert storms get alerted from two different places. So that management pack will automatically, if Log Insight and vRealize Ops are integrated together, it'll automatically install that NSX content pack or the other one, and other content packs will come on board with this. Look for vSAN soon, and it'll automatically configure the alerts within Log Insight. So by default, all the alerts in Log Insight are turned off, because we want customers to have the choice of what logs and alerts they want to be alerted on if they want to customize them. So it'll automatically turn those on if you have them configured in operations. So we didn't get into any live demo here. We do have a bunch of hands-on labs. So I've been a captain in the hands-on labs the past 2 years, actually the past 3 years, and we have one specific one that was probably a good place to get started. is HOL 1801-03 CMP. So check out the hands-on labs. You can access these 24/7. They're a free resource to use from a training perspective. There's some other security-related log insight labs. So you asked about a security-related question. So I set up a lab last year that would look for root or other local admin access, and you can track how many times that person's been logging in and try to set some alerting around there. So that's another security. We don't classify ourselves as a SIM product, but it could be a security-related function to get some of that specific data. So, is there anybody that's never taken a hands-on lab? A couple people. Did you know they existed? Yep. So so some people don't. So there's a lot of all the stuff that you saw in the general announcements from this morning outside of Log Insight. Those are all available down in the hands-on labs space right now to start getting access.
So given that, even in the keynote they talked about patching and security and everything all the time, why would you not enterprise a security log management system? What is the VMware's, validated design log management system and not the realized log insight?
So the SIM perspective is we're just not in that quadrant. It's more of a PM team.
So there's a couple of criteria you have to go through, I think, before you're full on SIM, and there's security alerting, and we've positioned more as the log analytics. You also need more security specific with HIPAA and things like that. We need to hire the development tools that we've since kind of geared away towards. And a lot of the security stuff in the keynote gears towards NXX, the micro-segmentation, the patching has to do with SDDC Manager, making sure everything's updated. The new vRealize suite, where we incorporate a lot of the kind of patching and making sure that's done. So that's the area of security we typically talk about versus the kind of the Splunks and the pure security SIMs of the world. So
just by a poll of hands, how many folks so Log Insight is an on-prem solution only today. How many folks would want to see a SaaS-based offering of Log Insight?
Very similar features for the most part.
Yep.
Okay.
We got about 7 minutes left. In meetings, I don't like to go up to the last minute. There's no point in pushing it over the limit. So if there's any more questions, we can keep answering those. Come up. If you ask a question, we'll give you the card for feedback on operations and intelligent operations and Q&A.
Yep.
His name is John Diaz, and I believe his blog is called storagegumbo.com.
So for folks, once again, the survey, it's up there. So if you want to do it, $10 gift card. I can give you guys here, just scan it or anything. So feel free.
Thank you all. Have a great VM World.
Thank you.